I want you to cast your minds back about a month. Think about Boxing Day 2004. 5 million people lost their homes. 1 million people were left without any means of making a living. There were 5 World Heritage Sites destroyed. The cost of aid and reconstruction of the tsunami is £7.5 billion. And I want you to imagine something is going to happen to you. You're sat at home, it's Boxing Day, relaxing, watching television, when suddenly the next door neighbour bursts into the room. She shouts, "Quick, get out of here! You've got 30 seconds before this house is destroyed."
Schools around the country have been devoting assemblies to the consequences of the tsunami. But John Peplow and his staff at Filton High School in South Gloucestershire have done much more. They felt that the tsunami was of such importance and had left the children with so many unanswered questions, they decided to abandon the regular timetable and spend a whole week exploring the impact of the disaster. Over the week, each year group dropped their usual activities for a day and spent that time exploring the tsunami and its consequences.
The idea was actually put forward by our head of English, Paul Vernell. We were all very concerned about, obviously, the disaster that happened on Boxing Day. Lots and lots of the pupils have been coming up saying, "Sir, can we have a non-uniform day? Sir, can we collect some money? We want to do a sponsored event." And Paul mentioned at one of the staff briefings that he thought we should look into it far more than just in terms of raising money, although the raising money is obviously very important. There is a lot to be gained from looking at where we go from this disaster.
The week was organised by Paul Vernell. Staff planned the activities in just 3 days, and they wanted to broaden the learning objectives to get the children to think about the question, is another world possible?
I think education should be made more relevant to young people, and I thought that this issue might be one we could explore and help young people come to make decisions about their rights and responsibilities as global citizens. Children will be given the tools from each subject to look at the tsunami from different aspects and hopefully, by the end of the day, come up with some answers to some quite profound questions.
It's 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning and it's Year 8's turn to spend the whole day reflecting on the tsunami. After John Peplow has set the scene, he then gets the children to imagine how they would deal with the situation themselves. He asks them to think about how they might have reacted, what they would have tried to save, and what they would sacrifice.
And cars to get away. You need access to fresh water so they can drink. Hospitals. You need housing.
What would happen if there was no fresh water?
Everyone would die and get ill.
Why would they get diseases?
From the water.
The week is about working with the children to get a positive response. We don't just want to concentrate on this one issue, we look at all global issues, and that will come from the pupils as well. You know, they come up with some really good ideas. And you know, the challenge of it really is not just to put their views forward, but also to be able to listen to other people's views and respect them. I hope at the end of the day, you all have a much clearer understanding of the impact this disaster has had on every single person on the planet.
At 9:45, there's a mass French teach-in in the main hall. Maya Noua takes the group through the background to the tsunami. What were the bare statistics? Which countries were most affected?
Par exemple, Angleterre. Est-ce que Angleterre a été touchée par tsunami? Oui ou non? Les mains, s'il vous plaît. Est-ce que la Thaïlande a été touchée par tsunami? Oui, oui, bravo. Donc on met une petite coche. D'accord? Ça va? Oui? Oui, très bien. Alors je vais vous donner 5 minutes pour faire cette activité. Allez-y.
Brazil didn't get hit, Thailand got hit, Turkey didn't. I know I did. Turkey.
Brazil didn't get hit.
No. That's what
Indonesia did.
Indonesia did. Venezuela didn't.
Bravo. Cochez, vous cochez, coche. C'est quoi? Bravo.
8.
Tanzania.
9.
The fundraising will come on the final day when we have a non-uniform day, but I think the important work prior to that in classrooms, looking at different aspects of not just the tsunami, but you know, global issues within their lessons and then coming up with the challenge of what can be done about it. You know, what part have we got as individuals and as a country and, in fact, as part of mankind to deal with this.
It's 10:30 and the next lesson is maths. Louise Eckersley broadens the issues arising from the tsunami and discusses the maths and economics of aid and debt.
We're going to look at some of the issues that arise from the tsunami. So issues about money, the money that we're giving, is that this country is giving a lot of money to help the victims of the tsunami. Right, so we're going to look at how much money we've got and whether we can afford to get rid of poverty in the world. Okay. We wanted them to look at the facts that have been thrown around after the tsunami and sort of demystify some of those facts. So just sort of looking at the numbers involved and just what is £1 billion, how much aid are we giving, and issues like third world debt, I don't think many of them were that aware of. How much money would be generated if the UK paid 0.7% of its GNP to third world aid? So we know that the GNP per person is 16,600.
Yeah.
We know that there are 58.3 million people in the UK.
Yeah, you'd have to.
So you've got to find...
You've got to
58 times that.
If you find the total GNP, then you've got to find 0.7% of it.
Divide by 0.7 times 100.
1.2 billion live on less than $1 per day, and 6 billion in the world, and then times by 100 from somewhere, and that's 20% of the people in the world living on less than £200 a year.
I think the main aim of the week is to ensure that the curriculum supports developing pupils into global citizens. We want them to learn about their rights and responsibilities in a rapidly changing world.
Right, so there's a debate. Some politicians think that we should drop the third world debt. Just write it off, say that's it, you don't need to pay us anything back. Right, what do you think about that? Do you think we should do that?
Yeah.
Why?
If we didn't get it back, then they could fund for better things.
With morning break over, Year 8 go to their English lesson. Joy Peters is teaching them letter writing with a difference.
Your objective today is writing to argue and persuade, and we're going to look at how we do that in a bit more detail in a moment.
Joy gives the children statements that relate to global issues such as poverty and third world debt. They discuss these amongst themselves, then go on to the main task.
And what we're going to do today is we're going to write a letter to Tony Blair, because hopefully by reading those statements you've realised that there is an awful lot of poverty in the world, and what we want to do is try and persuade Tony Blair to cancel world debt, okay, because this country has lent a lot of other countries money and they're trying to pay us back as well as cope with the problems that things like the tsunami have caused. We wanted them to use their English skills in a way that was also relevant to what's been happening in the world. It's obviously been a big topic of conversation for the children over the last few weeks, so we wanted to make that relevant in their education, in their learning. What they did today was they wrote letters to Tony Blair asking him to cancel world debt because we wanted to increase their awareness of poverty across the world. In particular the tsunami areas.
I am fortunately writing this letter as I am at school. However, 100 million children aren't as fortunate as they aren't able to go to school. That's very good, well done.
Dear Prime Minister, I am writing to say that you should put a stop to the third world debt, because countries are struggling to even afford food and drinks, let alone paying off their debts. Africa has been affected by AIDS and still will be, because they haven't got the money to help them get rid of AIDS.
I'm writing to you whilst in school on Tsunami Day. We are lucky to be getting an education. 100 million children in the developing world still aren't able to go to school due to the third world debts. Maybe I can persuade you to stop the world's debts.
The response for the children today was brilliant. They told me that they'd enjoyed the lesson. Quite a few of them asked me if they could take their letters home so they could improve them. Some of them wanted to type them up on computers. They were really pleased that I was actually going to send these letters. It gave them a real sense of reality to it, I think.
I wrote to Tony Blair that he should stop the debts because there are they need the money so they can build schools so the children can go to school and get jobs, and then they put money towards their country.
She should drop the third world debt because they haven't got enough money for the early warning system, and they haven't got enough money for fresh water. So if we drop the debt, then they can worry about what's important to their country and not paying the debt.
Last lesson before lunch is history. Tom Ivy uses Sri Lanka as a case study to explore the disaster in the context of colonial history. He begins by asking a broad question about whether the events of Boxing Day were mankind's responsibility.
Okay. Was there any human involvement? Did we do anything? Did human intervention at some point in history have anything to do with the massive loss of life? The questions we've posed, the information we've looked at is how the role of Britain and other European nations during colonial times had an effect on that country and the money that was there and leading to the poverty that we have in that country, and how that then knocked on to the massive loss of life that happened in December 2004. Back in the 1500s, the 16th century, Portugal, and then Holland, and then Britain started to become interested in the raw materials that are available in Sri Lanka. See if you can find any evidence of the impact that countries like Portugal, countries like Holland, countries like Britain had on Sri Lanka. What do you notice about some of these pictures? What do you notice about the way these people are living their lives?
It isn't that rich country to be able to afford all the equipment what we can, so it can't see if the tsunami was coming.
I think they got a lot from the lesson. I didn't speak to every single individual, but the individuals I spoke to seemed to get a lot from it, and the discussions coming out of it were fantastic for a group of Year 8s.
Following a well-deserved lunch break for Year 8 staff and pupils, they all reconvene in the hall for the last lesson of the day. They discuss many of the ideas and issues raised in the subject lessons and address the overarching theme of the week.
Can we make the world a safer place? What did your group decide?
That if the rich countries were to let off the poorer countries some of the debt, then they could rebuild the houses to make them stronger, so that if there was another tsunami, then less houses would get destroyed.
As the head, I've been very proud of the response that they've had in their subject areas, but also how it's the one theme, the one focus has pulled the whole staff together.
I've been here 16 years and I've seen people be enthusiastic on many occasions, but this week has seemed to grip everybody's imagination. People who have come up to me and said, this is what I came into education for.
It's helped me to learn more about the tsunami and how lucky we are up to other countries. It teaches us about the world and what's happening around us, because we're still young and we didn't really understand, but if we do stuff in school we understand it more, so we can maybe try and help.
I think everyone should care about it and think about what would happen if that actually happened to them. Their families and children and friends were taken away from them and they had nothing left.